A little late, but better late than never. Hi, this is Burr Stewart, and today we're going to really seriously geek out on this 4-unit multiple unit consist that I called a dog's breakfast in my previous video. And it starts out with pulling this consist into the interbay yard and hooking up to a train.
Videoing?
Bang! Now, while we wait for the brakeman to hook up the air pipe and pump up the air brakes in the train, let's look at a prototype photograph of a very similar consist taken by an unknown photographer, just to prove to you that this is a realistic collection of locomotives to be modeling. Look at that, just behind the engines, we even got a wood chip hopper car. How about that? I just love the sound of the engines and the squealer. All 4 of these engines were extensively reworked and detailed and weathered by Brian Elchlip. And it was just my lucky day when he brought all 4 of them over, set them up in a multiple unit consist, and ran them all the way up to Skykomish on my model railroad, which depicts the Burlington Northern in the 1970s in the Seattle region. But wait a minute, what's this? Well, in my previous videos, you saw that in a weak moment, I acquired a Pennsy Hammerhead Alco RS-3, which you see here, pulling a nice long train. Now, I showed you this in a previous video. It sounds great if I would just stop talking so we could hear it. And I'll have it in a couple of other shots later in this video. Here we're just seeing it pulling across the Squid Bridge.
I don't know.
With a string of cars that were in the Bayside yard, and they're all pretty good except for that white tank car, which I think is a little too modern for this particular train. But I like the way that it matches the sheep over in the Delta yard there. So meanwhile, our 4-unit consist has been pulling northward towards Everett and its Delta yard. What beautiful engines, huh? What? Well, I guess we're going to have a sort of a meet. The RS-3 is on what we call the low line, and the 4-engine BN consist is heading up to Delta Yard and Skykomish, having taken the eastward route at Everett Junction, which it just left. And you can see our Alco is taking main 1, which is the frontmost main line here. This is the beginning of double track here at Mukilteo. 2 cabooses passing in the night. Oh, I guess pretty well lit daylight. And that's our train. We'll be heading up towards Skykomish. And a few minutes later, we're approaching Mount Index Loop. Oh, you gotta love this. There's a GP10 there, 1422. Every layout needs an S-curve, as I mentioned in my previous video. It looks pretty good. There's Mount Index there on the backdrop. I apologize in advance for how shaky some of this video is. I took it on my cell phone, and I like to use a better camera for such an exquisite bunch of engines. Those cabooses at the top are at the very end of the Bellingham staging yard, which is at the northern end of the layout, but never mind. Oh, isn't that a good shot? I was telling Brian this is the culmination of my entire model railroading career to have a beautiful set of Burlington Northern engines charging up the hill towards Stevens Pass. I've wanted to see this all my life, and here it is. Fantastic. If you've watched my other videos, you've seen us staining the rocks on the left there and putting in trees and adjusting scenery, and there's an ACI label on that F unit. There's a back view of our 1422. Getting the thing in focus finally. Sorry about that. And we're entering the Skykomish staging yard here. Now off the camera, he's going to go around the rainbow loop and come back out in the Bellingham staging, and we'll see that in a second. There's my favorite hooker tank car. Oh, but first we have to admire our Hammerhead some more. Look at this. They built this engine when they were replacing steam engines with diesels, and on a particular line they needed both the dynamic brake and the steam generator for passenger trains. This is the cutoff between Skykomish and Bellingham on my layout, which is basically here just for staging purposes so we can run trains like this. But I cannot stop enjoying the looks of an Alco C-636 like this. I have a lot of trouble getting it in focus and stop shaking and everything, sorry. But eventually this is going to settle down and look pretty good. What an engine. And look how Brian put bright headlights in the front. Really makes it look realistic. That's a brass C415 that he painted. Really nice too. That one there. This is the Bellingham staging yard, so these trains behind our cut are going to eventually come in from the north. Well, a few minutes later, we're crossing the Samish River, approaching Burlington. That is quite the scene. Now here we're passing the Burlington station. And you can admire the plumbing in my house there on the backdrop. I could get that removed, but I'm too cheap to hire a plumber to do it. And that yellow Mini Cooper is about 30 or 40 years out of era. Sorry about that. There's my favorite hooker tank car again. Now we're a little further along in the Burlington yard. You can see Mount Baker in the distance there on the backdrop. And our brand new Bo Edison Foods. Who ever heard of putting a curve in the middle of a double truss bridge? One of these days I'm going to glue this bridge in a straight configuration. Now there, you hear the beginning of the dynamic brake application. Isn't that a cool sound? This is all downhill for the next few miles, and I wanted you to see some of these weathering effects close up. Wow, look at that. Rust, grime, ACI labels. That is some fine modeling work there. Now, a funny thing happened. I accidentally turned on the slow motion on my cell phone when I was taking this shot of our Hammerhead RS-3. And when I was reviewing it, I thought, this is a kind of fun way to see this engine. It's so slow you can really take it in. And the boxcar looks really good too. I accidentally turned it off. Now here again, I accidentally turned that on. I don't care much for the flicker, but there's something surreal about the slow motion that I hope you enjoy as much as I'm enjoying it. I won't let it go for too long, I promise. That's a really cool PRR car. And we can see there's appears to be a drunk crewman on that Milwaukee switcher. That's one of their MP15 AC engines that they bought in the early 70s. The roof detail is great. Needs to be weathered, but love it. And we didn't do too good a job on this shot in an earlier video, so I thought I'd try to make up for it. But since I was just using my cell phone, I still didn't have very good focus. So I'll continue to try to improve on this. There is a little grade crossing there. And as you see, we're at milepost 37. That means we're 37 miles north of Seattle here in Everett. Well, in case you're tired of the 1970s, you can move forward a couple of decades. And Dave had just brought over his brand new weathered Santa Fe engine from the BNSF era. And this is a brand new Athearn Genesis model that he just received. And in the inset there, you can see the stock number and what it is you're looking at there. Now, I had set up these freight cars on the right side there so that we could have something more than box cars to look at next time we run a modern consist. And I hope you approve of that. So that's what we have for today. Really geeking out on this one consist, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and you'll check out the other videos on my channel. And for now, this is Burr Stewart, wishing you much fun with trains. I know we're having it.